Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're continuing our What Is series, and this time we're tackling what is controls engineering or control system engineering.
Fun fact, I had no idea that this was like a specific thing until we started the research.
I am with you. Yes, I did
So
not know that either.
this
But
was a write-in, right?
it was a write-in. I think multiple people have actually written this in.
It
And
must be a bigger thing.
well, considering they graduate like 4 of them a year across the globe, it must be the majority of those folks have written in now.
Well, yeah, and like the other thing too is like the last time you and I, were in school,
There is that.
Cat was a kitten. So as Neil Cross would say, I stole that.
That was good job, Neil.
So I feel like in most of my research, I will just say this appeared to be like a newer kind of specific field of study. Obviously, because back in the day, stuff didn't have controls. It just had a bunch of like mechanical levers, like.
It had Luke. Yeah.
Yeah. It had people.
No, I think you're right. It does seem like a newer one, and there are some specific programs for it, but it does kind of seem like a subset. Kind of like we said with, I don't know, there was another one where it was like, well, just go for mechanical and then you'll figure it out. And you can apply for this job too. Like that's how nuclear was back in the day when I was in the schools. So control engineering, do you know what it is?
So I top of my head,
Uh-huh.
Encyclopedia Britannica research. So control engineers design and oversee the production of many types of complex systems and equipment. So they research, test, and analyze how equipment works. So if you think of the example I saw was like an ATM machine. So these things are highly sophisticated pieces of equipment, right? And if you think about it, if this spits out like an extra 20 every time accidentally, there's all kinds of sensors. So what a controls engineer does is not only do they help build those systems and control all the different sensors and mechanisms, because everything's controlled with a sensor nowadays. They also optimize them so they can run more efficient, have less downtime, perform faster. They work with like tolerances in a lot of cases to make things either cheaper, more expensive, lighter, whatever it might be. But it's all about taking, I'm going to say mechanical equipment for the most part. I'm sure there's other equipment, but just to make this easy, imagine like a piece of mechanical equipment controlling the processes that piece of equipment does that is typically automated. So hands-off human being kind of thing. So generally speaking, top of my head.
Question for you.
Shoot.
If an ATM, have you ever called them a Mac machine? Was that a thing back?
So
back
I
in the
used
day
to
for
call
you?
it a Mac machine all the time because
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh here, like Money Access Center, Mac was like a Midwestern thing.
I didn't realize that. I called it that somewhere and someone was like, what are you talking about?
But ATM, like I remember the first time I saw or someone called it ATM, I was like, what the heck is an ATM? But that was probably like 20 years ago.
Well, that can be other stuff too. So I don't like that. But one other question. If it does spit out an extra 20 and you take it and spend it, is that on you? Like, do you get in trouble?
So fun fact, I think my brother said this happened to him one time. He got an extra, I think like 220s, like the tolerances must have been messed up. And apparently it knew. And whenever like you get the receipt, it like something showed up that he took an extra $40 out that he didn't intend to take out. And I guess like,
what if he overdrew his account with that 40
like,
bucks? I'd be mad.
My guess is they would like take that because it was like a failure. But yeah, it was years ago. He actually got an extra 40 bucks.
Interesting. Okay, so getting back on track. When I was going through all of this, I was like, okay, so control system engineering, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, what the heck is a control system? So you did a good job of explaining it there. A control system, the fundamentals of one include measuring an air signal and then adjusting the system to reach that desired course or outcome. And so in addition to our ATMs and things like that, control systems could include like cruise control on your vehicle, temperature control in a building, chemical concentrations in water, conveyor belt speeds, and things like that. So really all sorts of applications for control system engineers in the industries out there.
One of the things that I saw that is newer with control systems, So not only is it relatively new, but this is even newer on top of that is
Oh my goodness.
they're taking into account a lot of, I'll say like user feedback. So you think of like the human factor of like how people, I know, how people interact with a machine. So it's almost like they want to make sure that the way you intend to use the machine is the way they design the machine. Like how many times have you like gotten, so my perfect example, my wife has a Volkswagen and for my entire life, turning on windshield wipers to get like the one pulse is a push down. Well, on Volkswagens apparently, and I think all kind of German European vehicles, it's a push up. And when I go between my car and her car, it's just like, it drives me crazy. And that's like a control that someone has designed and engineered that is the exact opposite of every American vehicle that I've ever driven. And it drives me bananas. So that's an example of where they would analyze that I'm doing it, like, and I'm kind of wrestling with it, and then they would actually redesign it based off of feedback, testing, all kinds of stuff. So,
okay, well, that's interesting. I wonder how quickly that gets implemented. Well, never. Yeah, it just goes in the garbage. All right, so moving on, I was going to cover a bit of what they do next. Is that okay? I think
that's a great idea. Or do you want me to cover like the details?
What details?
So like the pay, the degree,
let's do that after
outlook.
the universities and stuff. Let's cover what they do so that people can decide if they even want to look into these universities that we're going to recommend. That get the unprofessional engineering stamp of approval.
Stamp of approval.
We should make that a thing. Oh, goodness. Everybody would be dying for one of those.
Yes.
Okay, so control engineering, it encompasses many engineering disciplines, as you kind of led off with saying. An engineer may specifically study this thing in academia to become a qualified control systems engineer, or they could be studying industrial automation, mechatronics, robotics, those sorts of things. And those kind of combine to become control system engineers. For a control system engineering job. The requirements are also known to be about electrical design, electronics, mechanical or mechatronics, computer science can also qualify, and process automation and physics. So it doesn't mean you have to be an expert in all of this stuff. But if you think about it, this does kind of mean, like we were saying, you could go for mechanical engineering. You could go for electrical or industrial even. A lot of this feels like industrial engineering. And comp sci is even another major. So if this is something that you're interested in, but you don't necessarily have a program close to you because it's still kind of new, maybe one of those majors would be a good thing for you. So the term system suggests that it's more than one component. And metaphorically, this applies to the control system engineers experience. So they need to develop the capability beyond just like a single technology, and wider experience for control system engineering is critical. So really just having that jack of all trades kind of mentality.
And you definitely just didn't do a cut and paste. Like
I for sure didn't.
You wrote the word metaphorically. I'm sure that wasn't.
I speak in metaphors all of the time, Luke. So I don't know what you're even trying to imply. No?
You've never said the word metaphorically in the 11 years that I've known you.
I've only known you 11 years?
It's coming up on 11.
Okay. So just a little bit more about what they actually would do. So you talked about some of the systems that they would design with ATMs and some of the things I mentioned. But one that's really a good example, I think, and I'm copying pasting this from our landing page, is how does Amazon Prime work? So if you haven't checked out our episode on that, I think this is a really good example, and a company that does hire a lot of control system engineers is Amazon. So all of the conveyor belts, if you listen to our Coke episode and how Coke is made, the same thing there. They have to control the speed of the conveyor belts. They have to control what the people are doing at each stop. But also for Amazon in particular, they really have to factor in a lot of robotics and how that plays in, and making sure those tolerances are tight. So really, like, that's like my favorite example, I think, is the conveyor belt systems and making sure that those are running smoothly. I think that's a giant organization.
Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest one to kind of understand that you're controlling. But I think a lot of this happens at the software side of things. So
and that's where comp sci comes in.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So a lot of times you're writing programs that are going to control like a PLC or something like that to then do, additional things. So
PLC.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
I didn't know you even know what that sort of stuff means, Luke. Or
You're
did
lucky,
you copy?
You're lucky I didn't
that?
You're lucky I didn't say LPC. With my getting
That's
things
fair.
backwards.
All right. Before we move on to any more LPCs, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
I have to assume it's Amazon or Coke. We already mentioned them.
It is not, but maybe they would like to sponsor us after those great shout outs that they've gotten. We don't have a sponsor, which hurts my heart hole. Yeah, but we do have some shout outs, and that's even better. So first we have Dave B. He says, I work as a bench jeweler in a small city around southwest Victoria, Australia. So, he's just from around the world writing into us. I have listened to all of your episodes while sitting at my bench at work and really enjoyed your episode on blacksmithing. So that's pretty cool. Apparently we didn't botch it too badly. Go check that one out if you haven't. Jewelry manufacturing has some similarities to and quite a history. Maybe you could do an episode on it. Heck yeah, we could do an episode on it. I've always found it rather fascinating, so that would interest me. Also, could you give a special shout out to my kids, Sarah, Rachel, and Ruben? So absolutely, Dave, Sarah, Rachel, and Ruben, thank you for listening, and a special shout out to all of you. Hope everything's good down under. Is that what they say?
I think it's exactly what they say. So James, just
Dingoes
kind of quick side note, I'm totally addicted to Aussie gold hunters. It's an Australian.
Tell me about this.
You have to watch this show.
What's it on?
I have an antenna, so
can I stream it somewhere?
You probably not. I don't know, but it is so good. It's So.
I'll try my best. Number 2, Zach K wrote in. This is fascinating. I'm a civil engineering student from Canada, which isn't so fascinating. And then he says, don't envy me too much. I had an idea for a future episode or just a fun fact you may not know about, which I did not. When I graduate, I will attend my Ritual of the Calling of an Engineer and receive my iron ring. Since I know Luke likes videos so much, here's a quick 4-minute video explaining it. I was wondering if any other countries have traditions like mine. So I Googled this thing, and in fact, this is straight up a cult, I'm convinced. So you go for engineering in Canada, and you can join this engineering cult.
And you join the Freemasons, basically.
It's basically joining the Freemasons. You literally get an iron ring to wear.
From any university you graduate from, or specifically engineering?
They have a list. So Concordia in Montreal was on the list. The University of Toronto, who we always throw out in our top universities for the globe for engineering, they're part of it. So fascinating. I've never heard of such a thing, but I would love to do something like that. Maybe we could start partnering with like CCAC and handing out some stuff to them for graduating. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
I think so too.
Oh my goodness.
If any of you have amazing fun facts like that, if you would like to get the Unprofessional Engineering seal of approval, if you would like to join the Ritual of Unprofessional Engineering or anything like that, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, we love the reviews. And as always, you can tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering podcast, apparently even in Australia.
That's right. I haven't looked at our ratings in a while, but I assume they're all 5 stars, and we're probably one of the top podcasts in the world by now.
Sure.
Where do you want to go to next, Luke?
Let's go to, do you want to do the school stuff now? We could do like the universities.
I do want to.
Okay.
That's where I wanted.
So I'm going to go through universities, and I had a really tough time finding, because this is a newer kind of course. Or
I had no problem, but my knowledge is far superior of yours.
It is far superior. So I have a list of schools, and then if you want to review like the types of classes, so yours might be different than mine. So here's what I got. The number 1 school that I found on 2 different lists was University of Illinois at Urban, which is crazy. 15K in-state, 32 out-of-state. Finally, MIT gets knocked down a peg. They're number 2. I think these lists might not be accurate, just saying, because I've never heard of University of Illinois at Urban. But MIT...
Yeah, that's not even their main campus, is it?
If this is accurate... Yeah, exactly. Champaign.
Champagne?
Yeah.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
MIT number 2, 53K. You could take the in-state and out-state tuition together, and it's cheaper to go to University of Illinois at Urban. Next one, and these ones I couldn't find so this is worldwide. The next
You
one is
have to ask.
the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland. No idea how much it was. It was some Swiss franc or something like that.
You mixed them up. I see.
I did because my list was a worldwide globalist. The next one is this Harbin Institute of Technology in China, University of Toronto in Canada. Apparently you get some iron rings.
Get an iron ring.
I'm telling you, University of Cal Berkeley, 14 in-state, 44 out-of-state. Imperial College London in the UK. I imagine it's just a couple pounds to go there. Australia, there's an Australia one. How funny. University of Newcastle.
Newcastle.
And then I have Harvard coming in at number 9.
Harvard.
51K. There is no in-state or out-of-state.
Harvard does not make many of our lists.
It doesn't, which I'm surprised it did. And then coming in at number 10, I'm surprised, is University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. 15 in-state and 51 out-of-state.
So we're going to have another episode coming up, and the University of Michigan actually comes up as a topic. So yeah, Michigan is expensive out of state.
Yeah.
A few others that I had listed there. Cornell was on my list. Johns Hopkins, Washington University in St. Louis, University of Pennsylvania, not to be confused with Pennsylvania State University, USC, Virginia, who likes to think that they're Ivy League, but they're not, Georgia Tech, and you mentioned Illinois. But also around the globe, you mentioned, I think, the first 5 on my list, but then Nanyang Tech in Singapore, City University of Hong Kong, University of Groningen in Netherlands,
Nailed it.
KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden, and then Zhenjiang U in China. So a lot of options.
Would you ever consider going to an out of the country university?
Well, I'm never going back to an in-country university, so no, I wouldn't.
Like we had to do it all over
when I was
again.
younger,
would you go?
I mean, maybe nowadays me would, but I mean, I went all the way to Penn State, an hour and a half away from home. So you tell me if I'm going to go to China. Come on.
You're right. Okay.
One thing about these schools, though, I think the largest graduating class that I saw, I got like a bunch of numbers.
They're really small.
Like 196 was the biggest graduating class. And some of them are like 45. You go to Penn State and you graduate 10 billion mechanical engineers every year. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, a lot of universities out there. Real quick on the classes that you're going to be taking when you do that. So like we said a number of times, you can just go be a mechanical or electrical right now and do this stuff. So make sure to check out our episode on what is mechanical engineering and what is electrical engineering, and maybe the comp sci one I think we did, because you can just get those degrees. But if you want to be fancy and go and get this fancy degree at one of those lovely colleges that you mentioned, systems and controls would be a type of class, which makes sense. Linear systems, transfer functions, Laplace transformations. Oh, do you remember Laplace transformations? Oh my gosh, it's so bad. So that's like the backbone of all thing advanced mathematics. So I constantly cringe at the thought of differential equations and stuff like this. And this is like the backbone of it. Thanks a lot, Pierre Simon Laplace. Anyways, some more dynamic systems and controls, transportation courses, system engineering and system optimizations. You have to take some comp sci and theory of computation. So even if you're not a comp sci major, like you said, a lot of it is on that side of things. So you'll be taking some coursework there. Probability and statistics, which makes a lot of sense. I liked my statistics class, actually. So easy math. Electrical engineering, robotics and control systems, which sounds really cool other than being electrical engineering. And then discrete mathematics was another thing listed there. So super heavy on the maths, the comp sci, and the electrical engineering side of things. So none of that is for me. So this was not the right major for me to choose.
Very good.
What do you think? Yeah. So before we go on, I know that I have a little bit about, I don't know who hires you and pay and stuff like that, but maybe we should take a break for this week's Loop's Rant.
Okay, so Halloween is right around the corner, or maybe just
It
past,
is.
depending on when we post this. But so
It could be
I
really, really far away depending on when they listen to it.
so we protested pumpkins this year, James, and I'm going to
We
tell you,
meaning your family?
the family. So we go to our
Hmm.
local, farm place to go get pumpkins, right? And they are
Yeah.
astronomically priced. This is literally something that they're going to throw out if I don't buy it at the end of the season. They grind them up and throw them in the field. Like it's
They
ridiculous.
feed them
So,
to pigs.
well, yeah, but so the price of pumpkins was ridiculous. So what we did instead, James, was we bought all the cheap gourds. They're like $1 because they're like ugly, like
They
the
have all
things
those
are,
like warts on them.
yeah, and they're like
Yeah.
shaped like bananas and like tubas and like all kinds of crazy things. So we
Musical
bought an
instruments.
array of gourds this year, and it was like $10 for like literally 10 of them. And we have a little gourd thing. The second piece, so that's kind of my rant. Pumpkin prices are ridiculous.
Does it look like a cornucopia?
It does look like a cornucopia, James. Very
Yes,
good.
yes.
And my
Metaphorically speaking.
I'm gonna punch you. So my next one is, I think I may have a new favorite candy, and it's again Halloween's right around the corner. I'm unabashedly a Twix person. Twix,
You are.
best candy bar ever if I had to choose. But I've been on a cowtail thing recently.
Those are good.
And they're like, so it's like the small caramels with the cream in the middle, except you get a big, long piece of them. And they are just
These
so
aren't new,
delicious.
Luke.
I know they're not new, but they're kind of like new to me because I don't remember them growing up all that much. And I have a debate with some friends whether they're good or not. And I think they're literally one of the best candies.
Oh, they are.
So just,
They're
I'm just
good.
wondering,
I don't know.
holiday Halloween season here, what do some of our listeners eat from a candy standpoint? I'd be interested to hear.
Do you remember the Zero bars that we were sent? Those things were delightful.
Those.
Oh, they were a delightful surprise. I loved them. Very good. Oh, so sorry for the pumpkin prices. I heard that the prices are going to be really bad this year and that I guess we have COVID to thank for that.
Mm-hmm.
But a warning for you, Mr. Luke, I also heard that there is a turkey shortage so that you are going to have to pay more for your Thanksgiving turkey. So
yeah, usually they're out at the store by now, and I haven't seen a single turkey at the store yet. I think they're all in those cargo containers off the coast of California right now.
rotting along. That's lovely. Rotting turkey. All right. So
okay. So
gosh,
let's talk the cheddar. So how much money do some of these cats make? So
yeah.
So this is directly from I think the Department of Labor and Bureau of Statistics, I think is, I forget what it's called. So the low end, these cats are going to make about $57K a year. So,
out of college, I could deal with that.
It's not terrible considering housing costs nowadays, maybe not, but average is $84K a year, which isn't all that bad average. And then on the high end, it's somewhere in the 123K. But then, so I do this research. It gives me these, these ranges. Then I do a quick search on like Glassdoor, like a
oh, yeah.
And I
when
found
you were
all
not
these,
snooping for a new position.
Yeah, when I'm not snooping for a new job myself. And I'm looking at like Boeing, Shell, Lockheed Martin, Virgin Galactic, and we'll go through a list of some other ones. But they're all paying like 133, 128, 122. I imagine these are like senior, probably control folks, maybe 10 years of experience kind of thing. But they were all relatively
You did name a lot of like space and aeronautics right there.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. So the pay is pretty decent, I think, if you got some experience. The job outlook all the way through 2029, it's expected to grow at about 4%. So not huge. It is a little bit faster than just a standard mechanical engineer. Yep. So I think mechanical engineering is like 2 to 3%. So, and you typically only need a baccalaureate degree, as the smart people say.
That is what they say, the MIT grads. So yeah, I saw the same things, general breakdown. I saw the same thing about the 4% and that it's just a smidge above like a mechanical. But what I thought was interesting, you mentioned the pay there. The entry and early career folks, they're kind of on the lower end. Like they're like
Yeah.
about 12% to 7% lower than like a mechanical or other engineering types out there. But when you get into the late career and experienced, I guess your value goes up because of whatever it is you're doing there, because you start working for all of those space companies. And
Yeah.
that's you could be 20, 30% higher than average in those fields.
And my guess is, so like if you're just working for some random, automation company that, builds conveyors or robotic cells, and you're
A
just,
rando.
yeah, like Joe Schmo's, robotic cell, company, you're probably going to
Oh yeah.
be in that like 80K range. But whenever you're talking like these big companies, some of the ones I mentioned, I think the pay is going to be significantly better because especially right now with, folks and companies looking for jobs, I think pay is going to continue to go up for something specialized like this.
Yeah. One not so fun fact before we get into who hired you and all of that good stuff. And this is probably no surprise to anyone. And I think we've mentioned it on other engineering type episodes, but the gender breakdown for control system engineer is roughly 88.3% male and 11.3% female.
It's a boatload of dudes.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully that's changing. Hopefully, STEM is becoming less of a, I don't know, gated community or whatever.
Well, I mean, I know like, so my daughter's in ninth grade and I know that the school she goes to, and it's not like the greatest school around, they have a pretty decent STEM and STEAM program. And
you know how I feel about STEAM.
Yeah, I do. and there really seems to be kind of really equal participation. If anything, there's probably more girls in it.
Really?
And
that's awesome.
Well, the reason I think there is because you have to I think you have to qualify academically. And I think generally in like high school years, girls are so much smarter than boys and make way better decisions about like planning for the future. Like, like getting into the robotics team or joining the STEM and STEAM clubs. Yeah. Boys are just kind of dumb in high school usually. So, so hopefully that sticks through college, and then ultimately, these career fields get a little more balanced out.
I like that you give us the like in high school boys are dumb thing, because
we're definitely,
some of us just never grow past that.
I wasn't going to point any fingers at anybody, but
Thanks, dude. All right. So who hires you, Luke?
Well, I mentioned a couple: Boeing, Shell, Lockheed, Virgin Galactic, Emerson Automation Solutions. Those are the ones that I had the salaries listed for, but a couple other ones that I didn't think about, like General Mills, like people that make cereal. But if you think about how you make cereal, it's probably how you make Coca-Cola. Tons of conveyors, tons of mixing equipment that you need to, control like how much it's mixing, how long it's mixing, how long it's baking. So I think a lot of food manufacturing and, just general grocery in general probably have quite a bit of, jobs available. Cummins, Tesla. How do you say the electric truck company? Ravenna, Rivian. They're the one that make the electric truck that is going to compete with Tesla.
Sounds good to me.
Procter Gamble.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, all kinds of companies.
Is the Tesla truck out yet?
No, but it's ugly.
Oh, it is so ugly. And its windshield its windows break, even though they're not supposed to. That's all I know about it. So back when I actually did engineering stuff, I didn't work for, but I did some work with General Mills, and I would go in and like check out their factory and do different stuff. But none of that's important. What's important there is when you go to their cafeteria, they have just like giant things of cereals that you can just like pull the little crank on and fill up your bowl for lunch with cereal, just like endless. It was pretty huge
cereal for meal dinner, not just breakfast. Like last night.
Oh yeah.
For example, I had a bowl of Raisin Bran last night for dinner. It's like a bowl and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're a healthy Raisin Bran-ish. Bayer was one that's local. Whenever I look up these jobs, I get all the local ones. So Bayer and Covestra were two that popped up
was
on
listed
my list.
for me.
Bechtel was listed as well. Yep. GM, Amazon again, all of those folks. So anyways, a pretty impressive array of people that you would work for, and a very diverse skills that you're going to need to work in those various areas. Out of all of those, which one would you pick to work for?
Oh, I would have to go with Lockheed Martin or
Lockheed.
Boeing or one of the, yeah. It's
I have
just,
NASA listed here as well, but I'd probably go with Virgin and see what kind of cool stuff I could get into there.
speaking of like the space companies, someone was joking. So just recently, Captain Kirk went to space.
He did.
With our boy Bezos on the Blue Origin. And I think it's funny because like Tesla, what's theirs called?
SpaceX.
SpaceX goes to like the International Space Station and drops people off, right? And like actually does space missions. And there is this meme about like, I mean, Blue Origin basically, you go to space for like 7 minutes, float around, and you're just at the very edge of space where gravity just, and then they just come back. It's just like, so
yeah.
The joke is like that they're not really going to space and like doing anything. It's just marketing. And
I feel like we should have a debate about that. I think it's kind of interesting and it probably brings good awareness to space travel and whatnot. But I mean, it's night and day, the difference as to what's going on there for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else you wanted to cover?
That's all I got.
Episode? That's all you got? All right. Well, hopefully everybody learned a lot about control engineering or control systems engineering. If you do have any questions on it, I would suggest Googling it, or you could go ahead and email us if you would like at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
see ya.